If you don't have time to grind and you want to buy a stacked account in 2K with max badges, a nice record, and a high overall, hit my man SportsTNB up. His Twitter handle is on the screen, and you can find the link in both the comment section and in the description. Wow man, life just comes at you fast, doesn't it? 2019 has only been around here for a minute and we've already got the R. Kelly interview, the Robert Kraft situation, and all of a sudden it's an acceptable conversation to have on whether a team should trade LeBron James or not. And this video can be considered a continuation of the barbershop talk I did about 2 weeks ago now, where I was talking about how LeBron James on the Lakers is really making less and less sense. But see, one thing I didn't know back then, and I actually did not even know till last night because I never bothered to look, I did not know that LeBron James does not have a no trade clause. He's playing basketball with a no trade clause, meaning aside from some pretty crazy tactics that I will get to later in this video, he could actually be traded and not have much to really be able to do about it. So if you haven't been looking at sports on social media and if you weren't watching the game last night, this basically spawned because Jeff Van Gundy brought it up. Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, they were doing the call, and I was only half paying attention to what they were talking about, but then I caught on to it that they were having a real live conversation during a game with LeBron on the court about the Lakers possibly trading him this summer. And at first it sounded crazy, especially because this is a conversation that again just has not been feasible like any time at any point throughout his career, and also because I'm used to hearing Jeff Van Gundy say off the wall stuff, or you know, against the Warriors the other night when he was calling the Warriors game, he went on to this tangent about a 5x5 game like he was just pressed as hell for no reason. So I'm just kind of used to it with Jeff, but that really made me think, especially once I found out he does not have a no trade clause. Is trading LeBron James as crazy as it actually sounds on the surface? Because, oh lord, it sounds crazy on the surface. LA's had a really unlucky and bad season, but like I said, he's not washed, his numbers aren't washed. The guy is still up there, don't get it twisted. But even what I'm seeing online, where I'm looking on the threads, it seems like everyone is standing on one side on this issue. There is no in between. Either they're saying, you know, you're crazy, they're rolling their eyes at Jeff Van Gundy, talking about this is why he's not a coach anymore. Either they're on that side, or they're on the side where they're saying, you know what, this actually makes sense. Trading LeBron is not a crazy idea. So check it out, it is a crazy idea, and even if the Lakers don't actually do it, it may be the next logical move on the board for them this summer, even if they don't do it, because there are some reasons I'm going to get into later why they should never even consider this, but that does not mean it wouldn't be very smart for them to do. So first off, let's get a full understanding here. Where is this even coming from? Like I said, it's not because they're not in the playoffs this year, and it's not because LeBron has declined majorly, because he hasn't. No, this is talk happening because of what the future might look like for Los Angeles. See, them missing the playoffs, whatever happened this year, it did not matter. We all came into this season with the understanding that LeBron's first year with the Lakers is just whatever. No matter what was going to happen, they were not going to win an NBA championship, and they were very likely not going to make the NBA Finals. So the fact that they didn't make the playoffs this year, I just don't feel like it's that important or that impactful. However, what is very important and impactful is what could happen this summer. Because I don't really need to go and re-explain the whole last barbershop talk, but if the Lakers strike out and they don't get anybody, they don't get an important free agent, a big time free agent, that's where that whole video came from, saying LeBron on LA makes no sense anymore. Because LeBron James, in the last few contending years of his career on a team with a young core who should be building something for the future, like beyond from when LeBron retires, those are two different ideologies on the same team. That doesn't make any sense. You need to go one way or the other. So whenever you see something sketch happening, or you know, it's a tough spot in your life, you gotta ask yourself, well, what's the plan here? And for the Lakers, what is the plan here if you guys don't get anybody this summer? Is it to just use LeBron for his last 2 years and make the playoffs and be like a first or second round out until he retires, and now you have the young core without LeBron James, but you also haven't built anything because you had LeBron on the team, and the only way having LeBron on the team made sense was if you were going to get somebody to help him immediately win. So what's the plan if you don't get anyone? And whenever you can answer the question, what's the plan, then you have a better idea of where you're actually going. So, trading LeBron James sounds fucking crazy, and again, the reason I raised my eyebrow when I heard them talking about it is because I completely thought they were just disregarding a no trade clause that I later found out he didn't even have. I never even thought to look because I just assumed a player like him would have it, especially in the situation he signed into in LA where it's a long term, but he doesn't have it. And so for the Lakers, you don't get anybody this summer. Now you stand to actually gain something from trading LeBron James. Whatever you get, whether it's really high picks, really good players that can help this team move on into the future, whatever it is, you're then assuring that you're not going to be screwed in whatever his last year is on the contract, which will be 2 seasons from now if he does not sign for the option year. You secure your future and you wave the white flag on this LeBron experiment, because again, the whole idea of this 3-year plan with LeBron James on the Lakers was the first year is going to be whatever it's going to be. We have a super hot free agent class coming into the summer, so then we really make a move and get somebody, and now we use LeBron for his last 2 years to contend. That was the plan. If nothing happens this summer, that plan is done. LeBron's purpose in LA, there is no purpose of it. There's no realistic purpose of it that you can talk about other than selling tickets or eventually going back to the playoffs if health permits. Other than that, he serves no long-term purpose, and then he's not even good for your future anymore. Because when he leaves, the team will either be where they were a few years ago or they will be worse off. That's if you get nobody this summer. Now, with that being said, there are 2 sides to every story, which is why I actually wanted to bring an article on this video, which I'll have the link in the comment section and in the description for you to go to read it yourself. But it's from SB Nation and it's from a guy named Tom Ziller, and he's saying that there is 3 reasons why the Lakers absolutely cannot trade LeBron James, even if they technically can, because he does not have a no trade clause. So I wanted to present this and respond to it so you can kind of see what would be standing in the way of it, because from the way I just explained it, it probably makes sense to some of you now who called it crazy earlier. It probably makes sense why trading LeBron James this summer, if that plan falls apart, would make sense, but there are still reasons why it wouldn't, and maybe why it wouldn't even be possible. The first thing that he says is that this would be career suicide for the Lakers front office, and he is referring to Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson specifically. He's basically saying that trading LeBron James would be admitting that they failed, because again, this was a 3-year deal. It was a 3-year plan. First year is done now. We all knew whatever happened, that wasn't going to be the most important thing. But if they also failed to get somebody this summer, on their resume it would now look like, okay, you signed LeBron James, you didn't really surround him with pieces that made good basketball sense, like Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley, Rondo. Like, from a basketball sense, that didn't really seem to fit. So they end up in the 10th spot. The whole fiasco with Anthony Davis happens. So he's saying that if you go through this whole year and all you have to show for it is now that you traded the guy who really chose to come here last summer, who knows if it was Magic Johnson really convincing him or if it was that LeBron had already decided to go there. That's something that he brings up. But yeah, he's saying that Magic and Rob, they can't even utter this. They can't even make it known that they're considering this, or it would basically be career suicide for them. I don't know about the whole ending their career thing, but I will at least agree with this part that yeah, no, that wouldn't be a good look. The fact that it got to the point where your plan fell apart so bad when you came into last summer with a young core and you were looking to steer that in the direction of, well, just a positive direction, it would then be looked at as a fiasco forever. We would look at this part of LeBron's career as, damn, remember that time he went to LA and nothing worked out and he got traded? It'd be a terrible look. I don't know about career suicide, but yeah, terrible look. To me, Ziller's second point makes a lot more sense, and here he says that no one is crazy enough to trade a lot for an angry James. And here he's basically alluding to the fact, and if you saw LeBron on his Barbershop show, and in a recent edition he was basically talking about the decision to come to LA and how he could have went to Philly, and if they had a losing streak there, maybe he would have felt like he needed to stay in Cleveland, or if he went anywhere else, maybe he would regret it. But it basically came down to him saying if he goes to LA and they go on a losing streak, then damn, just figure it out, right? Because he wants to be there. Yeah, trading LeBron James, that would piss him off on so many different levels, because of the type of player he is, because he trusted Magic when he signed there, and again, LeBron signed a 3-year deal with that 4th option. This is not typical of him. Normally he holds all the leverage in his relationships with teams. He signs little deals at a time, so if he decides he needs to leave or if he needs to do something else for the team, then he can do that, but he didn't do that this time. So yeah, that would be a complete betrayal of his trust. But then also, yeah, he chose LA for multiple reasons that did not have to do with basketball. He said that himself on the shop basically. So him being traded anywhere, he probably would not have a good morale with the team he went to. And then you have to think about the fact, what is a team actually going to trade for a 34-year-old LeBron? Because while he's still clearly a top player, a team would be then taking on the risk that LA would be trying to get rid of him for. In other words, LeBron is still a top player right now, but do you want to trade your 25-year-old franchise cornerstone for LeBron right now? Are you going to trade your future assets for 2 more years of LeBron? Like, what is anybody really what is his value right now? That's what this is questioning. What is his value? Because when you're trading for him, you have to consider his value on the court, but his future value as well, in terms of what you're giving up. So for the majority of teams, you have to admit that it would not make sense to give up a lot of future picks for LeBron. Giving up your young star for LeBron, you have to admit for the other guys that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because in 2 years, your franchise will not be better off. Even if for this season they'll be better off, they won't be better off in 2 years. So even if the front office got past the potential career suicide thing, yeah, finding a trade partner that will actually give you something valuable enough for him for you to make that move to trade LeBron James, that would probably be difficult. And finally, Ziller says that James can just threaten to retire. Wow, I never thought of that. But you know what? If LA did try to do this to him, there is a chance that he would just say fuck it and retire. He might, because hear me out. This is the guy that has said he's not chasing anything that he doesn't already have. He clearly went to LA for reasons other than basketball. Like, of course he'd like to compete on the court and he'd like to get Anthony Davis, but like he said, if you go to LA and you're losing, man, I'll just figure this out, whatever, because there's other things other than basketball. You try to send him away to some team he doesn't even want to be on, and he might just say, you know what, I'm not chasing anything anymore. I came to LA for other reasons, for business reasons. I'll just threaten to retire, and that's happened before. This is not something that is new. Vlade Divac, when the Kobe Bryant trade was going down back when he was first drafted and the Lakers acquired him, Divac had originally threatened to retire. So that is a tactic, especially at this point in LeBron's career. If that's the way LA decides to go, he might just say, alright, I'm done then. Because I think that the only other way LeBron sees his career retiring, I think he sees it 2 ways. Either LA figures this whole thing out and he retires competing for a championship and maybe even going out on top like Jordan did, or he sees it as a farewell tour in Cleveland. This guy is not going to retire. LeBron is not going to retire in a Minnesota jersey or in a Bulls jersey. Like, he's not going to go retire in some place that has nothing to offer him. So as Ziller goes on to say, yeah, that kind of keeps this whole conversation from even starting. Because if this conversation ever does start anywhere outside of TV and Jeff Van Gundy and, you know, the internet, he does have that veto. He has that power. He's not going to be willing to be traded somewhere where the team would actually have to give up valuable assets, which means he would not be going to another contender more than likely. So that kind of deads this whole thing. Meaning, in conclusion, trading LeBron James is as crazy as it sounds, but in another 5 months, it also might be the correct move for the Lakers to make, even if they're not going to make it or if they can't make it. Technically speaking, it would be the correct move for them to make, but as you can tell from Ziller's article, he's probably right. This is not a conversation I would expect to be having in July, and knowing how weird the basketball gods have been acting lately, we might end up with Kyrie in Los Angeles, who knows, right? So, fun conversation, but let's see what happens in another 4 or 5 months.